I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the UP fair, man. I breathe that freezing air, man.
Hi, this is Jim Islip with MSU Extension, and this is What's Up at UPREC on June 10, 2021. Today we'll visit with the crew here at Chatham as they transplant CBD hemp for a research trial.
Hello everyone, I'm James Dedecker here at UPREC. Today is the 10th of June and we are transplanting CBD hemp for a variety trial that is funded by a NIFA Tribal Research Grant in partnership with Bay Mills Community College and a couple of other tribal communities, as well as being in cooperation with 3 other land-grant universities in the Midwest, including UW-Wisconsin, Purdue, and University of Illinois. So in this variety trial today, we have 26 CBD hemp varieties. 23 of those are photoperiod sensitive and 3 of those are what we call auto flowering. So they will flower sooner and we plant them on a little bit different spacing. And we'll have 4 applications of each of those varieties here in the field today. These transplants, the photoperiod sensitive stuff that is going out now behind me was started approximately a month ago in the greenhouse from feminized seed. And so all of these plants should be female plants, which is what we're looking for to yield the flowers and the cannabinoids, primarily CBD, but other cannabinoids, non-THC cannabinoids that may be produced by these plants as well. And that is coming just from the females. We don't want male plants out here because of the risk of pollination and seed production, which would reduce our yield and quality of the flower that we're producing. Auto-flowering varieties are different in that they don't require a certain day length to flower. The photoperiod sensitive varieties, they're looking for less than 14 hours of daylight, which here in the Upper Peninsula occurs sometime around the 15th of August. So we'll start seeing flowering in the stuff that's going out behind me right now about that time. The auto-flowering varieties don't require any certain day length to begin flowering, and so they should be flowering any day, probably pretty soon after transplanting. We might get a little bit more vegetative growth and then they'll move into their reproductive phases. The auto-flowering plants are much smaller than the photoperiod sensitive plants. These photoperiod sensitive plants should be about 7 feet tall and probably just as wide, so they will pretty much fill the space that you see here that we've laid out for them. They're on a 4-foot in-row spacing with 8 foot between plots. The auto plants are going to remain much smaller, so they'll be something like maybe 2-3 feet tall when they're done, which is why we're going to plant them on a much denser spacing today. So this is really just one location that we have for this project. We also have other partners that are hosting locations for both CBD and grain and fiber hemp research. I mentioned Bay Mills Community College. Their location is Waishki Bay Farm. They're in Brimley. We also have partners at Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians and Ziba Mijuang Farm in Carp Lake, Michigan, near Mackinac City. And then finally, this year we have a new partner, Saginaw Chippewa Tribal College near Mount Pleasant is also hosting a location of this trial. So we've got locations in different environments and with different types of practices and farm operations across the state to get a good look at what this CBD can do. Aside from CBD, where we're really looking at producing the flower and the cannabinoids, the compounds in that flower, we also have different uses of hemp for grain and for fiber production. And that research is also occurring through the same project at other locations where we're direct seeding grain and fiber hemp into the field. And we've got several varieties there. For the first time this year, we actually have some dedicated fiber varieties that we'll be harvesting just for the stalk, just for the fiber out of those plants, which will be a new addition to the project this year. This hemp research is funded by a NIFA Tribal Research Grant. So Bay Mills Community College is the lead PI on the grant, and MSU and the other tribal partners are collaborators on the project. There's a related project. Our relationship with these other land-grant universities is funded by a SARE partnership grant. And our work with the other universities allows us to solicit seed together. So we all reached out to seed companies to solicit these seed entries so that we've got similar material across these 4 Midwest states that we're testing. And then that data goes into a shared database called the Midwest Hemp Database, which is hosted by University of Illinois Extension on one of their web pages. And that is a way that we can aggregate the data from this university research as well as grower research that's happening on farm or in commercial hemp fields around these 4 states and beyond, where we're asking growers to submit survey data about their management practices and their outcomes in terms of yield, and then they're also submitting flower samples from their CBD varieties to our partner labs, including Rock River Labs and ACT Labs in Wisconsin and in Illinois, that are analyzing that flower, giving us back the THC and the CBD results, and then that data is going to the database as well. And the Midwest Hemp Database is a tool then that is publicly accessible for anyone to look at how these different varieties performed, and hopefully will aid folks' variety selection. The other goal of the database is that some of the new USDA rules on hemp say that states can choose to test or not test based on performance, something called performance-based testing. So that is to say, if there's data available to say that a certain variety of hemp always meets the THC threshold, which is 0.3% THC, to be legal, hemp has to have that much THC or less. And so states can look at the database and data coming out of this research and out of cooperating growers fields around the Midwest and understand what is the track record of some of these genetics. How consistently are they meeting that threshold or not? And then determine if maybe in the future some of these varieties, particularly probably on the grain and fiber side that tend to be lower THC, may not need to be tested as intensively to be consistently legal.
That's what's up at UPREC. Hope to see you again next time.
Mini Trout Lake, Twin Lake, Beaver Lake, Cedar River, 3 Lake, Forest Lake, Little Lake, Iron River, Alpha, Austin, Allenville, Evan Junction.